Hello, fishing friends. Welcome to another episode of The Fishing Podcast. I'm your host, Landon Peisert, and this is where I interview industry greats, average Joes and Janes, biologists, conservationists, and everything in between. My goal is simple. I want to inspire anglers to catch more fish, more places, more often. Greetings to everyone listening today. As many of you know, not all fishing trips are great ones. Today, my buddy Matt Peisert joins me to tell me about his recent trip, which was not one of the good ones. This is a pretty crazy story. Really crazy, in fact. You hear about people going to other countries and terrible things happening, but this is the first person that I've ever known personally to really have something that really ruined their entire trip happen. And it was multiple things. It's not just one thing. I don't want to give too much away about the trip. What I can tell you is Matt was supposed to be in Mexico chasing tarpon and snook. It should have been an awesome time. What happened was far from that. Now, I don't intend this to be in any way a deterrent for people to get out and travel to other countries and chase new species of fish. I highly encourage that you do that because it's incredibly fun and usually things go the way they're supposed to. However, being aware of possible issues you could face while abroad is very, very important. Also, keep in mind that Matt had just gotten back and his view of this trip is negative for a very, very good reason, as you're about to find out. If you do plan to travel out of the country, though, I think there are some valuable lessons that can be learned here. Matt, how's it going tonight?
Pretty good, man. How you doing?
Not too bad. So I wanted to give you a call here on a little bit better terms and get your awesome fishing story from Mexico.
Yeah, it was super awesome.
But we got something a little bit different in store tonight, don't we?
Yeah, just a little bit.
So let's not start with the bad news. Let's start with the good news. And just if you could, tell people who you are and what you do for fun, for fishing, for a living, or whatever you got to say.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a husband and a father. I'm a New York life agent by day and a fishing guide by every other day. Guide here in Shiawassee County on the Shiawassee River, and then a little bit up on the Estable too for trout. So I'm a fishing addict for sure.
Yeah, and you're primarily fly fishing when it comes to guiding?
Yes. Yeah, if clients want to throw a spin rod, I'm cool with that. But generally, I have them bring their own stuff because I can't even tell you the last time I actually spin fish for anything. Nothing wrong with it. I love to fly fish. I don't know what it is, but I'm
it's addictive.
Really addicted to it.
That's for sure.
It really is.
So, I mean, you and I have talked quite a bit about trout fishing and fly fishing in general, but do you do any other types of fishing, walleye fishing? I know you said you retired from ice fishing, which I'm headed the same direction with the winters we've had.
Yes.
Just don't offer a lot of opportunity.
I used to be like, right. I do. It's really trout, smallmouth, and pike for me. I did a muskie trip with Eric Grayowski on Lake St. Clair last September. And that I can see being something that consumes me. There's a lake not too far from my house that I read they stock a bunch of muskie in, and I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, that's definitely on my. That's a fish on my bucket list for sure. And there's some over here some lakes that I know that have some decent numbers. So if you ever want to come over this way, I'd be willing to get out there with you.
Totally, we'll do it. And it's crazy because if you're fly fishing for them, you're just like casting into as far as you can and then strip, and then all of a sudden this fish that looks like an alligator and a shark had a baby just shows up underneath your fly, like just chilling there, ready to devour the thing, and then it's on. Like it's the weirdest thing ever. But it's so exciting.
It sounds incredibly addicting. Did you happen to listen to the podcast that I did with Sam Ewell on muskie fishing?
I was listening to part of it, and then I took a phone call, and then I forgot to finish it.
That's a pretty good one. I learned he knows his stuff when it comes to muskie, and whether you're fly fishing or traditional tackle, I mean it's all the same when it comes to finding them and what they eat and why they eat things. I would definitely check that one out.
Yeah, I will. I'll have to re-listen to that
for sure. So how long have you been guiding?
I've been guiding about 3 years now.
Okay.
3 years. Yep.
And did you just get into that for something extra to do, or how did you fall into that?
Well, so I think a similar way to a lot of people. So, I got a drift boat, and I was just getting super, super into fly fishing, right? I was like, well, the best way to take this to the next level is to get a drift boat.
Yeah.
So I get a drift boat, and then every friend I have, I'm taking fishing and essentially guiding them.
Yeah.
I thought, this seems like a decent thing to get, to be, doing for a little bit of money or something. And then I got connected with Brian Kaz, who I think you did a podcast mousing with Kaz, right?
Yep. And he's actually who recommended I get in touch with you.
Yeah. So I fished with Kaz. We met up at like the Midwest Fly Fishing Expo, and then long story short, we went fishing and got to talking and fished a few times, and he kind of encouraged me, hey, you should consider guiding. So I looked into it, started doing it, really enjoyed it. I actually went to school to be a teacher, so it's kind of in my blood a little bit. And I've gotten to a point where I'd just soon see somebody else catch a big fish in my boat than me catch a big fish. So
right.
It was kind of a natural fit for me.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm at the point where I'd rather, but I think I'm at the point where it's just as good either way. But I don't mind being the one catching them still, that's for sure.
Depending on the fish. If it's like a 2-foot brown and a client catches it, I'm like, oh man, that would have been really nice for me to catch. But I mean, it's awesome. And if it's like somebody that's never really fished before and they're just jacked up beyond belief, then that's awesome.
Yeah.
But if it's somebody that's caught like 50 big brown trout, then I'm like, I would have been okay catching that fish.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can't help but want to catch those big fish. They only come around so often. But you're doing.
Like I listen.
Go ahead.
I listened to your podcast with Matt Zudwig. Sounds like he doesn't ever get to fish.
Yeah, that's
like, holy cow.
That's what we were talking about when I went fishing with him. He's like, man, I'm trying to think of the last time I caught a steelhead, honestly. And he's like, it's really been a while. I'm like, man, if you can't remember the last steelhead you caught, I don't know. Guiding might be fun, but if it turns into that, I don't know if I'd enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, then it's a job. It's completely a job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I get. Like, that's, if as a full-time gig, like, it is your job, but you want to enjoy it. Like I told you, I work for New York Life. Like I really enjoy it. It doesn't even feel like a job to me. And when a job feels like a job, like you're dreading it every day. And I'm not saying that he does, but if you wake up and go, oh shoot, I got to go to work today. I've lived that life, and that is no fun at all.
Yeah, for sure. So you do quite a bit of smallmouth as well on the Shiawassee, which I've never fished, but from what I hear, it's one of the better rivers that you can go to for some quality fish.
Yeah, it's pretty swell. It's nice because it's like 10 minutes from my house, so I can be on the water. I can have the boat hooked up and be in the water fishing in probably less than 25 minutes, which is real nice, and it's close, and the fishing's awesome. And there's some really quality fish in there. I mean, the pike fishing in there too is really, really good. I don't think that gets enough credit, but there's some really, really good pike in that river.
Yeah. Yeah, and the last episode I did was actually with John Osborne, which I will be posting later tonight. When people listen to this, it will have already been posted. But you've got some information in that book too, don't you?
I do, yeah. Actually, on the Shiawassee, Kaz actually put me in touch with him, as Kaz tends to do, and we kind of connected, and I gave him some intel as far as kind of what I do on that river, and yeah. So I got my name in there. That was pretty cool. I was really honored for him to do that, and that's just a super well done book. I was really impressed with the way it turned out.
Yeah, it impressed me far more than I thought it would. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, just
super
the
well
amount of
done.
good information in there was pretty incredible. Honestly, like I told him,
Yep.
It would have saved me years of wasted time on rivers and years of research and looking at maps and
Yep.
for a lot of people, they don't have the amount of time that I have and have had to get out there and learn this stuff. So, they can really be important for new anglers or people that just don't have the time that you or I do.
Well, yeah, your average working dude. I mean, if you only have weekends to fish, which a lot of people do, that's at an absolute maximum, 110 days a year, and then you take out weekends like we're having now at 20 degrees below zero wind chill or whatever. You're pretty limited, so you gotta be efficient in your exploration.
Right. So let's rewind it before your trip. You and I talked. You're headed to Mexico. You're gonna go chase some tarpon and snook on the fly.
Yep.
How many days were you gonna fish originally?
Originally we were planning on 2 days of fish, 2 like 6-hour days of fishing was kind of the original plan. And then things went a little sideways. And
you were flying down to Mexico. What airport were you flying out of?
So we flew out of Detroit. So let me back up. So first of all, my passport came in several weeks ago, right around the start of the government shutdown. Okay, so the timing of this is pretty key. And get my passport in. Don't think anything of it. Oh, cool, my passport's here. And the night before we're getting ready, or we're supposed to get ready to leave, look at my passport, and the name is spelled wrong. My last name is spelled wrong on my passport. So this is strike number 1 on the trip. So we get all that ironed out. It's about 3.5 hours on the phone nonstop, but we get it ironed out. So that was the first bad part. And then to answer your question, then we flew out of Detroit. So we were supposed to fly out of Detroit on Sunday morning. What was that? The 20th or something?
It was a Sunday. So yeah.
Yeah, whatever that day was. We were supposed to fly out of Detroit. Get an email at 9:30 Saturday night as we're headed to the hotel down by the Detroit airport that our flight has been delayed 24 hours. So we were supposed to be in Mexico right around 1-2 o'clock on Sunday, and our next flight is not supposed to get there until 3 o'clock on Monday.
Okay, so you knew your flight was delayed before you got to the airport?
The first one.
Yes, yeah. Okay, because I didn't know about that one.
Better.
Yeah, I knew about the one where it gets better yet. So you're thinking, okay, this is a bummer, but we'll get there tomorrow and get on the plane.
Yeah, all is not lost. We'll be there mid-afternoon on Monday. No big deal.
And you're not going to miss out on your days of fishing yet, right?
Exactly. We're good still.
Okay.
And so I'm a little nervous because the weather's a little sketchy, and I wasn't sure, but we were still good at this point. So we get up, we go down Sunday night, stay in a hotel, because we had our flight on Monday was supposed to leave at like 6:30 in the morning, and with the government shutdown and TSA employee shortage and all this stuff, they wanted you there 3 hours before your flight leaves. So we woke up at like 2:40ish in the morning on Monday. So we head to the airport. We get there, get through TSA, no problem. Really didn't need to get there as early as what we thought we did. Could have gotten there like an hour before the flight would have left, and we would have been fine because it was so early in the morning.
Yeah.
Get to the gate, get on the plane, and the flight was supposed to leave at 6:25. 6:30 rolls around. Message comes over the PA system. The pilot does not have his iPad, so he has to run across the airport. And Detroit's a pretty good sized airport, right? So he's got to run across the airport to get a new iPad because it's not safe to fly without his iPad.
Man, I
didn't know if he had like.
I think that's one of those times where, like, I'm sure the iPad was important for some reason, but I feel like everybody would have felt better if they left out that it was the iPad and just said, like, oh, the pilot had an emergency and he has to go and take care of that and he'll be right back.
Yeah, could be a technical issue. Whatever.
Sure.
Doesn't matter. Just don't tell me that it's because of his iPad. Because I'm immediately thinking, oh, he's playing Angry Birds while he's up there flying a plane.
Right.
And so he leaves to go get the iPad. Well, he's gone for a good 25 minutes. I don't know if he stopped and had a cup of coffee on the way or what. Finally comes back, comes over the PA system, says, okay, we're doing the maintenance check right now. Don't know why they waited to do the maintenance check till he got back, because like the co-pilot or first mate or whatever they call it on an airplane was there. I would have thought he could have supervised such a thing. But they do the maintenance check, and turns out the water lines, because it was like -3 on this day. Yeah. Water lines on the plane are frozen. So can't fly the plane yet. We wait another 20 minutes, and they go, well, we're going to have everyone deplane and book another flight, and we'll have you get back on the plane when we're ready to go. So meanwhile, we had a connecting flight in Chicago that was originally only an hour and 15-minute layover.
My number one rule is never fly through Chicago if you can avoid it at all.
Because it's a huge airport. I know.
I've been screwed through that airport way too many times. Literally canceled flights, like completely canceled flights, late flights. Every other time I go through there, it's bad. To the point where I travel to St. Louis, Missouri a lot for work, and it's a 7-hour drive, and I will drive there every single time rather than fly through O'Hare if that's my option.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take your lead on that from now on. But so it gets better. So we get on, we rebook our flight, our Chicago flight for the flight leaving out of Chicago for like 10:40. I'm like, okay, should have plenty of time. Well, another hour goes by and we haven't gotten on the plane yet. And so we go to the very short-staffed people in the airport. There's this one guy running around. He's apparently got asthma, totally overwhelmed. He's like, he sat down and had a nervous breakdown for about 5 minutes because everything was going so bad. And so he was supposed to be rebooking and rescheduling flights for people. He could not function. So we ended up having to book a completely different flight to Houston and then to Cancun. So the problem is the Houston flight, they were supposed to move our bags from the original Chicago flight to the plane going to Houston, and they forgot to do that. So the plane gets held up. Plane going to Houston gets held up for like 15 minutes so they can get our bags off the Chicago flight to the Houston flight. So we get to Houston, and everything's good so far.
Bags are there.
So,
or you think they're there?
No, we're there. We're in Houston.
Okay.
But then our flight by the time we get off the plane, Houston. Have you ever been to the Houston airport?
Yeah, I flew through there last time I went to Panama, actually.
It's gigantic, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to take a tram all over the place and whatever. So we get to Houston and we have about 23 minutes between the time we get off the plane and the time that boarding stops on the next plane. So So, and stop me if you have questions, because I'm just kind of rolling through the story here.
No, you're flowing pretty
So
good.
Okay. So we are on almost a dead sprint through the Houston airport, jump on a tram, and push over some old ladies and knock over some kids so we can get onto this next airplane, going to Cancun, because it's been a serious day by this point. So we roll into Cancun and we finally get to the resort at like 7 o'clock Monday night. So we're finally there. So we finally made it to Cancun, which was the first success of the trip, which was nice.
Yeah, you got to your destination. I mean, everything's good from here, right? You're at the resort. You're going to go to the beach. You're going to go fishing. What could possibly go wrong?
Had some hiccups along the way, but all in all, not too bad. So Tuesday is our day to go fishing. It was because we got there so late. We ended up just doing one full day of fishing. It was gonna be a 1 8-hour trip, which I was hesitant to do because I've read a bunch of times that with saltwater fishing, if you've got a weird weather pattern or weird wind or whatever, you've done some saltwater fishing, right?
Yeah.
And so you can probably attest to the fact that, like, if you just get some weird conditions, then the fishing is super tough.
Yeah, I mean, it not really too different from, trout fishing or even smallmouth fishing, or you just have days where it's off and it doesn't matter what you're going to do. Like, you're not going to really get into fish.
Right, which is why I originally wanted to do 2 trips. But because we got there so late Monday, we decided to shorten it up a little bit and just go with one full day of fishing. And we went to Isla Blanca, and we booked through Yellow Dog, which was an awesome. I don't know if I can plug them on your
absolutely.
podcast or not. So you can bleep them out if you want. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, obviously, but
no.
They were always really awesome to work with.
It's good for people know good places to go if they're going on vacation as well. So by all means,
if you are planning on going on a trip to somewhere you've never been before, and you are crazy enough to want to leave the United States, book through Yellow Dog, because our guide was fantastic. Everything was awesome. It was very smooth sailing. We got to our resort, contacted the outfitter. He put us in touch with what we needed to do, and everything was great up to that point. So we get out, we're tarpon fishing, and there's a few fish rolling, not a lot. The guide, you can tell early on, is like a little sketched out that it's going to be a tough day. Wind was like 20 miles an hour. And the fish were he said they were just ultra spooky.
And you were fly fishing, right?
Which is exactly. I was, yep.
So I've never fly fished in 20 mile an hour winds, but I have to imagine that's not an easy thing to do.
It's not. So I brought my 8-weight, and it was just not getting the job done in these winds. So he gives me his 10-weight, which is cool, right? I fished his 10-weight for muskie, and I fished his 10-weight a couple other times. Wasn't a big deal because it was a 10-weight. The bigger deal was that the cork on this rod was completely falling, because they generally fish 8-weights, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the cork on this 10-weight was completely falling off. So the grip was a combination of cork and replacement tennis racket grip. So that was a weird little deal, but we overcame it, and I was casting and I was doing fine. But in this wind and just the way the conditions were, I guess, the fish were just super tough.
Now, were you
I just wasn't good enough.
Were you like out on flats, or were you up in like mangrove coves, or kind of explain the scenario or the landscape you're fishing in?
Yeah, so it's off of Isla Blanca, which is a super skinny peninsula, and you're going into the mangroves. So it's all like, and the mangroves aren't like I thought they were. Like I thought they were like a part of an island, but they're just like essentially seaweed trees that are growing up out of the middle of the ocean. Which I didn't realize, just because I'd never been there, I'd never seen it before. I didn't even realize that was the case. I thought they were like like.
Yeah, where I've seen mangroves, like down in Florida on the inland waterways, intercoastals, they're always growing like off of an island or something. But I imagine if the water's shallow enough and they're protected enough from, the waves and stuff coming in from offshore, I imagine they could spring up and kind of just grow across a flat or something too.
Oh yeah, these weren't even like close to shore. I mean, they were a good mile from shore, and like big tree, like you could hang a tree stand in them.
Oh really?
I mean, you couldn't because it was so thick, but you get the idea. Like the trunks of these mangroves were as big around as I am.
Oh, no kidding.
It was really wild, and it's so thick that you couldn't even attempt to walk through this stuff.
Probably get killed by some kind of snake or something if you did.
Crocodiles. We saw like 15 crocodiles.
Oh, really? Any big ones?
Yeah. The biggest one, the guide said he thought was probably about 16 feet long.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to mess with one of those.
Yeah. No. He said every once in a while he'll have a client try and cast the one he wants to hit him over the head with his push pole. Because he says you can't move that guy. Can't move that guy. Too heavy. Can't move that guy.
Yeah.
He kept saying that. It was funny. But yeah, the mangroves are totally different than what I anticipated. It was really cool and it was really pretty, just totally different. And these fish are up inside them. So you can hear tarpon rolling, and you gotta almost like Bassmaster Classic skip your fly up underneath them. Because it was really sunny and really windy. So the fish were like way tucked up in the mangroves. It's very strange.
Sounds like some pretty tough conditions to get your presentation in front of a fish, that's for sure.
Yeah, especially for a trout fisherman. So I had the first fish I had eat. I didn't trout set. I strip set, and for whatever reason he didn't buckle up. So it's bad luck or whatever, or I was too slow on the hook set, or I don't know. But I saw the fish flash. I saw him try to eat it, just couldn't hook him up. Then the next two, I saw him eat, everything went perfect, and I trout set like a dummy and didn't get him. And the guide, I could tell, was just pulling his hair out. He was totally cheering for me. He did an awesome job. He was pushing the boat around. If you do book with Yellow Dog and you do go to Cancun, recommend Luis. He was absolutely fantastic. But long story short, I did end up with the old goose egg on the tarpon trip.
Ugh. So did you get hooked up on any?
One for a split second.
Oh.
But I didn't jump any. So I would like to go back. However, I won't probably do it in Cancun. I'll do it. I'm sure there's baby tarpon to be caught somewhere near Florida, right?
Oh yeah, I'm sure there is down in the Everglades and stuff down there. I'd have to imagine.
Yeah, I would think so.
Now, did you get into any other fish at all?
We did not. No. So the guide was also shocked that we didn't hook up on a single snook because he said, this isn't the best tarpon spot, but usually we get the most snook here, and not a single snook all day long. Didn't even see one. Didn't even hook one. Nothing.
That's a bummer, man. I mean, I know all too well what it's like to go on a trip with high hopes and high expectations, and sometimes it just does not work out. And what can you do about it? That's fishing, but
yeah,
it also makes it extra tough because you wish you could have had another day. You should have had another day, and maybe you still would have had another day because you could have decided to go again. Right? You still have a few more days in Mexico.
Yeah. So before I move on to the worst part, just a couple takeaways on the whole saltwater experience. If I had it to do over again, I would have spent a lot of time practicing casting at like paper plates from about 50 to 60 feet. Because you think you're an accurate caster, especially the fly rod. You think you're an accurate caster. You think you can cast accurately at distance. But when you have a rolling tarpon at 60 feet and you've got to hurry up and make a shot, it's like you drool on yourself and forget your name and can't cast.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna go on a saltwater fishing trip, you gotta drill and practice because if you're used to fishing freshwater, which is all I've ever done, you read about it and you hear about it, but until you actually do it, you can't even fathom that just your casting accuracy and how quick you've got to be to get the fly in the spot where it needs to be. It's totally different than anything I've ever done.
Yeah, I am very, very sure that I would struggle with that. Not even that accurate a caster with lighter tackle and much shorter distances than 50 feet. Is there anything else for, let's say somebody listening to this is planning to go do the same thing? Any other advice you'd have for them before they went?
Other than practice a ton, calm down. The first time you see one roll, you freak out a little bit.
Yeah.
I had a beer on the boat and that calmed the nerves just a little bit. But I didn't even know how cause I'll have clients sometimes where they'll cast awesome all day and then we'll have a big fish rise, like a big trout. And then it's like they forget how to cast.
Oh yeah.
And so I now empathize with that guide because, I was casting fine until we saw fish roll, and then I basically forgot my name and couldn't remember how to cast. Just because you get excited, and it's like, you hear hunters talk about buck fever. That's almost exactly what it was.
Yeah.
It was a very different experience. So calm the nerves and practice casting. Those would be the two that I think the biggest takeaways as far as the fishing and the salt.
That can be hard to do though, man. I mean, you're an experienced fisherman, it can all go awry very quickly when you start focusing on the prize instead of what you have to do to get it.
Yep. Yeah. You get results oriented instead of process oriented, and things fall apart really fast.
Yep.
So,
yep. I've been
but
there.
it is a blast because it's tons of fun because you're just so dialed in and you see these fish roll and you're fired up, and it is a ton of fun. It's the most fun I've ever had not catching fish, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, I understand that. So, so you brought an 8-weight. Would that normally be okay? Like you said, they're normally fishing with 8 weights.
Yeah. So, yep. So that's what they recommend is 8 weights. Cause you're not catching the big tarpon you see on like the TV shows or whatever that are 140 pounds.
Right.
It's mostly like, I think the average is like 7 to 25 pounds, which I would imagine a 25 pound tarpon on an 8 weight would be kind of like bringing a knife to a gunfight.
Yeah.
But the majority of the fish are in probably the 7 to 15 pound range, which is a little more manageable.
Yeah.
So.
But still, I mean, I'm sure they would put up an awesome fight on an 8-weight rod because not too many people have a 10-weight rod in the garage just on backup for tarpon that I know of.
No. Unless you're kind of a dedicated pike muskie fisherman or something, I think that's the only people that I know that have 10 weights.
Now, what kind of flies are you using?
So the one we fished most of the day was just a little single hook. It was almost like a zoo cougar. It had like it was chartreuse. It had a deer hair head and then polar fiber tail. The guide said that was kind of his go-to fly. And then we fished like kind of like a sea deucer pattern, if you're familiar with that.
I'm not familiar with that.
And then this other little bait fish. It's got like I think it's a rabbit strip off the back, and it's got like it's tied towards the back of the shank of the hook. And then we fished this other little bait fish pattern that looked like a similar to a clouder.
Okay. Which is a pretty standard saltwater fly too, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty standard saltwater stuff. Nothing like really crazy in it. The flies were much sparser and smaller than I anticipated. Because you figure like trout streamers, right? They're 7 inches long and big and beefy and whatever, but these patterns were just really slender and small and not quite what I expected.
Yeah. So your day ends, you go back to the resort. I'm sure you probably have a couple drinks, go to the beach, enjoy your time. What happens next on your trip?
Yeah, so we had a couple good days. Met some cool people. Actually met a guy who invited me out to fish with him in Utah on the Green River. All by Matt. And went out to dinner and did the whole thing. Never left the resort, which is key. Never left the resort. And then Friday, so Wednesday, Thursday were pretty nice days. I mean, Wednesday was really nice because it rained a whole bunch in the morning. And then it was beautiful the whole rest of the day. So for whatever reason, nobody came outside for the most part the whole day. So we had the beach and the pool practically all to ourselves. It was really cool. And then Thursday was really nice all day, like 85 and sunny. And then trouble started Friday. So we get up, and we're early risers. We got an 18-month-old who likes to wake up about 5:30 in the morning. So, we got up at like 6. Breakfast didn't start till 6:30. So we go down and have breakfast. And everything's fine. Go hang out by the pool. It's real hot that morning. So it's just a really nice day to hang out by the pool and do some swimming and whatever. Had a couple, I think maybe we each had one drink around like 11 o'clock. Nothing crazy. And then, right around 11:30, my wife started feeling a little iffy. So she's like, let's go to the room. I want to just lay down for a little bit. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. Let me do that. And then we're just kind of hanging. I think we ended up taking a nap. Around 2-3 o'clock, might even be a little bit before that, she becomes violently ill. And it's bad. It's nonstop vomiting, the whole deal, right? So I'm like, oh boy, she got a hold of something bad. So I'm thinking, okay, this is just going to run its course because, just about everybody's had food poisoning. Stuff happens. But everybody's had food poisoning. It runs its course after a couple hours, and you might be a little tired and not feel great afterwards, but, you're no worse for wear, really. You get some fluids in you, and you're fine.
Yeah.
Well, it gets to be about...
So this is like around noon, you said now, so it's not from something you ate the night before, it doesn't sound like. I mean, did you guys...
I don't think so. I don't know a ton about food poisoning, but I have heard that it can take some time, but it could have been the night before. But either way, we're on a resort.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure because, you're at an all-inclusive resort. You see something that looks good, you eat it.
Right.
So I couldn't even put a finger on what it possibly could have been. So she is just in really rough shape, and I'm kind of freaking out. Like, okay, this is not getting any better. It's actually getting worse, and she can't keep anything down at all. Like, I went and got her some Gatorade and some, basically what amounts to Pedialyte, some water and bottled water, of course. And she couldn't keep anything down. It was a mess.
Yeah,
so the hospital had a doctor on set.
You said you guys didn't drink any of the tap water, right? I think you said.
No, we didn't. So they said it was all purified, but we were just, you hear about don't drink the water. So just in your head, you're like, don't drink the water, right?
Now, did you brush your teeth
we were
with
even brushing our teeth with. No, we were even using bottled water to brush our teeth.
So you were extra careful.
I don't know. I just didn't want to chance it. Yeah, I was being extra careful. And so I really don't think it was a water issue. Other than like if they cooked it with cooked food with some nasty water or something, but I really don't know. But around 5 o'clock-ish, she's just not getting better. And the hotel had a doctor on staff, so I called him, and he didn't speak very good English at all. But what I could gather is he wanted $100 or he wasn't coming. $100 cash or he wasn't coming, which I thought sounded very weird. I'm like, why can't they just charge the room? He's allegedly on staff with the hotel. Because I didn't have that much cash on me. It was towards the end of the week. We're getting ready to go home the next day. And at this point I'm thinking, okay, I've got to get a doctor up here to take care of her, or else we're not going to get out of here, because there's no way she can get on a plane like this in less than basically what amounts to 12 hours. So he comes up, I have to go downstairs, leave her in the room, get $100 in cash out, which doing ATM in Mexico, I don't know if you know this or not, but it cost me like an extra $20 to get out $100.
Yeah.
So, which is not the end of the world, but it was annoying at this point, which becomes the least of our problems as the story goes on. So he comes up, gives her a shot of Zofran, which is supposed to take away nausea.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't do a thing, like has no impact.
Really?
And a little more time goes by. At this point, we're probably 6, 7 o'clock, and I'm starting to feel pretty questionable. And I'm starting to think, okay, she's in really bad shape. Like, she's in physical pain. She's feeling so poorly, right? And I'm starting to feel bad. And so I start to think, okay, well, we need to consider some other actions here. So then I start to get sick. And I'm like, okay, we've got to go to the hospital. And so I get a hold of the concierge desk, and they call us a taxi, and we get in the taxi, and she's got a bucket that she's been puking in, and I'm getting ready to.
Oh man.
And so we're both in the back seat of this taxi, taking turns puking into this bucket, and this poor cab driver in the front seat. I felt so bad for the poor guy, because he's rolling down all the windows, because it had to. I mean, I couldn't tell, but it had to smell terrible.
Oh yeah.
With 2 people throwing up in a bucket in the back seat, and he's in the front seat. He's dry heaving like crazy.
Oh.
It was so bad. And so I felt so bad for the guy. And so and I kept saying, like, lo siento. He didn't speak hardly any English at all. I kept saying, lo siento, lo siento. And so we finally get to the hospital, right? I'm like, okay, we're finally at the hospital. We get some stuff taken care of. And so we walk in, and we get to wait. And we both make a couple trips to the bathroom. And they finally get us like in and admitted, and they tell us, okay, before we can treat you, it's $2,000 per person up front. Holy cow, that's insane. And they say, well, if the total bill is less than that, then we refund some of your money. But because you're an international person, like, we don't accept your insurance, you have to get reimbursed. It's like, okay, whatever. I mean, we're both in really bad shape. At this point, I had probably thrown up 6 or 7 times just in the taxi ride alone. And I was in a position where I couldn't feel my feet or my hands, and I couldn't, like, my vision was super blurry. So I was a little bit scared at this point. I was like, okay, I got to get some kind of IV or whatever. So it didn't matter what kind of money we're talking about, because I'm not dying in a Mexican hospital.
Right.
And so we paid the $4,000 total, because it's $2,000 a person. And the doctor, of course, doesn't speak a lick of English at all. There's one nurse that speaks okay English, which I don't begrudge them. They're in their home country. Like, they shouldn't have to speak English, but for us, it was very intimidating, obviously.
Yeah, well, and you would think, like, you're in the resort capital of Mexico. You know, not to say that, like, they have to speak English or anything, but you just thought there would have been somebody there that spoke pretty good English, you know, because in most situations there would be. I would have thought, at least.
Yeah, you would think. I figured with at the resort and everything, they all spoke fantastic English,
right?
Which obviously makes sense. But I just figured, this is Cancun, everybody speaks English. We get to the hospital, and there's like one nurse that spoke really okay English, like not good English, but like very okay. Like, I joke with my friends that I'm the okayest fly fishing guide there is. And it was like that. It was just very okay, right? And so you can kind of understand what she was saying, but they're just pumping us full of these whatever IVs. I have no idea because I don't speak Spanish. My wife took a lot of Spanish in college, but that was years ago.
Yeah.
And so we neither of us had really any idea what they were doing to us. And we're in really bad shape, and I'm laying in my hospital bed going, holy cow, I'm glad I still life insurance, and because I don't know if I'm getting out of here. And I was like worried about my son and all this stuff. And
your son's
so
back,
I finally
back
started to feel
home, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a key point. He's with grandma and grandpa. And we couldn't get any text messages to go through, and our phones weren't really working great. But we had called my mother-in-law on the way to the hospital and said, hey, we're on the way to the hospital. And then we get to the hospital and have no way to get a hold of anybody.
Oh,
so our
so they're
parents,
freaking out.
My parents and her parents are losing their minds completely because they think, holy cow. I mean, you think about a hospital in Mexico. If you don't know, all you see is like what you see in movies, right? So you're thinking really the worst. I mean, maybe it's just me being ignorant, but
what was the hospital like?
Expect.
Did it look like our hospitals? You know, everything seem like a normal hospital, or was it different?
It was very, very clean. They did a really good job. The only thing that was weird is nobody wore gloves at any point. That was kind of questionable. Yeah. But that may not be a standard there. I don't know. But so far so good. I don't have any weird infections in me right now, and I've been home almost a week. So, so we get to the hospital and all that stuff. And we finally start to feel better after I don't know how many rounds of IVs, and they pumped us full of Zofran and different antibiotics and all this other stuff. And so around 3 a.m., they tell us, okay, once you finish this IV, we can get you ready to go home. So we're thinking, okay, we're $4,000 into this thing. We're finally feeling better. We're finally going to get out of here. Maybe they're going to refund a little bit of our money.
Right.
And so we get to the guy at the desk who actually did speak very good English. And he's like, okay, I'll have your total for you in 15 minutes. Well, a half hour rolls by, and he's like, okay, got your total for you. And the total is like $5,239 or something like that. And we're like floored. We're like, how could this be another $1,000 on top of the $4,000 that we had already paid? Because thinking that was the combined total.
Right.
And then he pulls out another stack of papers, and he goes, and your total, pointing to me, is $4,900 blah blah blah. So it was a little over $10,000 to get out of this hospital, and they won't let you leave unless you pay it. That was it. So,
just sounds like a scam. Like it sounds.
It felt like it. It totally felt like it. But I mean, we had no idea what else to do, and I mean, you think about it, an ER visit in the U.S. Like I remember 2 years ago, I had, and this was a surgery, so obviously more money. There was anesthetic involved, but I think it was like the total bill. I mean, insurance obviously covered it at that point, but the total bill I think was like $15,000. So I'm thinking,
right, really, but that's a surgery with anesthetic and everything, like you said. Like I've had some surgeries before too, and I've went to the ER before and been in there for the night, and I don't remember what the bill was because my insurance covered it, but I always look at it and I know that it wasn't $10,000. You know. That's a lot of money for some antibiotics, some IVs, and Zofran, in a night in a hospital.
The antibiotic that they gave me, it was Cipro, and I got home and I got a prescription for that from my doctor, and it cost me $4.
Jeez.
So, So anyway, it feels like a scam. I don't know, but at this point, we're just waiting on insurance to reimburse us. But we didn't get out of the hotel out of the hospital until a little after 3:00 in the morning. and we didn't get to bed till probably 4:30, and we were to leave the hotel by 9 a.m. Saturday. So we had a handful of hours, not even a handful, a couple hours really, to sleep before we had to get on a plane, and feel like the worst hangover you can imagine, right? Because you've been puking all night.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, I'm sure you really wanted to get home, but man, on the other hand, I would have been like thinking about just paying to stay there another night to sleep. But I guess
it was a weird catch-22 because you're like, man, I just want to get home so bad. I want to see my son. I just want to.
Right.
I want to get back to the United States. And man, oh man, was it awful. The just traveling for an entire day. So we had a layover in Washington D.C.
I mean, that's exhausting when you're not sick.
What's that?
It's exhausting when you're not sick to travel.
Yeah, especially when it's a whole day like that. And it was literally like traveling all day with the worst hangover you can possibly imagine. And like you're afraid to move because you don't know if you're gonna puke, and it was rough. It was really rough. And then we finally get back to Detroit, and it's like 0 degrees coming from 80 degrees, so you're freezing cold. And then we had almost a 2-hour drive home, so we finally made it home, and everything was okay. But I can tell you that was an interesting trip, to say the least.
And you're still waiting to hear back from your insurance on whether or not they'll pay for your stay there.
Yeah, and I think right, the maximum they're even going to pay, even on the $5,000 of my bill, I think it's probably going to be about $3,000 because I have a deductible and all that stuff like everybody else has, right? Yeah. So, it's going to be what turned out to be what was originally going to be a pretty cheap vacation, we'll call it, turned into be probably the most expensive vacation I've ever had.
I don't think you can call it a vacation.
Could have been in New Zealand. Yeah. It was a
expensive
trip.
nightmare.
Definitely a trip. Yeah. Basically, I added it up, and I got on. I shouldn't have done this. And I got online and I did some research, and I totally could have been in New Zealand for what we've spent to go to Mexico for a week.
Yeah, so. But I mean, so this is like the worst case scenario. This is, the stuff you hear about on TV. You don't really ever know anybody that this has ever happened to. You just hear like, oh, you could get sick, and like you don't want to end up in a strange hospital in a foreign country. But you said you couldn't really think anything you ate or anything you could have done to prevent it. Do you think it could have been like a really bad, just like 24-hour flu? Because, I mean, I've had some pretty wicked ones before.
No, because we got better so quick. They shot us up with whatever IVs they gave us. And my wife is in the medical field, and she was looking up some of the stuff. She's like, some of the stuff's not even legal in the United States that they gave us. And so they shot us up with all this stuff, and we got better. Really, relative from where we were to where we were when we left that place, we were better very, very quickly. So I don't think there's any way it was any kind of flu bug. And so since we've been back, I did some research, and we didn't by any means go crazy and drink a ton of alcohol or anything like that. But I did read that 43% of the alcohol served in Cancun, is either tainted in some way or it's actually like bootlegged. So it's made in a still in somebody's basement, not like mass produced and regulated.
So, yeah, you have no idea what could have been in one of those alcohol bottles. You didn't eat anything like crazy, like oysters or anything like that, though?
No, we didn't. We just basically ate. I mean, we ate a ton of Mexican food because I'm like, I'm in Mexico. I want to eat because I really like authentic Mexican food.
Yeah.
And so we had I probably had, I don't know, somewhere just shy of 1,000 tacos al pastor, just because I love them. And so maybe that had something to do with it. I really don't know. I wish I could put my finger on something that I thought was sketchy, but everything seemed on the up and up.
So this whole thing though has got me thinking about my upcoming trip to Panama. And by no means am I like saying like, oh, well, you should have done this, Matt. Why didn't you think of that? Because last time I went to Panama, I didn't do any of these things, but just for the simple fact of anytime you're traveling somewhere, you do want to make sure that you're going to be all right. Hopefully you don't get sick, but if you do get sick, what's going to happen? How are you going to pay for it? And last time I went to Panama, I didn't do this, but I know I went to Germany in college, and they actually required that we get like an extra insurance added for like the month that we were there. And I think it was like $90 or something. And it was basically covered anything that you could think of for medical expenses that might have happened, which hearing your story, I'm definitely going to look back into that for my upcoming trip, because I would have to imagine I could be in a very similar situation in Panama, being, not even just out of, what do they call it, where your insurance covers a certain area, but out of the country at that.
I don't know. Right.
But
now I did have travel insurance, and I got to look into what all that covers. I've just always heard if you go out of the country, you always want travel insurance.
Right.
So I bought travel insurance.
Okay.
But I don't know that covers medical expenses.
So what
that's something
referring
I'm
to
look
is
into this weekend.
This is like a travel health insurance that I got when I went to Germany.
Yeah. It's like Geo Global Medical or something.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
I think that might have actually been what it was, and it was basically it was kind of like gap insurance. So if your insurance didn't cover something, it covered like the rest of whatever your insurance didn't cover after that.
Yep. That makes sense, because I remember seeing something about that before we left and thought, nah, that's stupid. Nobody needs that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But shoot, man, for, even if it was, I think it was like $90 and I was gone for a month or like 5 weeks. So I don't know.
Even if it was $1,000, it would be worth it, my friend.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I might still risk it for 1,000. I say that, but I'm not coming back from your awful trip. But
you're not staring at a $10,000 hospital bill.
Yeah, that's insane.
It was insane. It was absolutely insane.
What else could we possibly learn from your misfortune? Man, I was going to say at the beginning. I was going to say at the beginning of this, plan your fishing days towards the end of the trip in case like flights and stuff. But you might have not went fishing at all if you did that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Plan them at the very beginning and just hope that, and also do your research on your airline. We just booked through one of the normal booking type websites, but I'm not gonna name any names. But
I think it's fine if you do. I'm curious which one that you actually booked through.
Well, we booked through Expedia and we used United.
Okay.
Which United hasn't had the best publicity anyway. But
I've had bad luck on all of them, honestly.
What's that?
I've had bad luck on almost all of them. It really depends on the day. I don't think there's a good airline. But you booked your actual like vacation through Expedia?
Yeah, so we booked through Expedia, and I think that United is extremely understaffed. We came to find out, but like you said, I mean, I think all the airlines screw up from time to time. It's like anything else that's human operated. It's going to be human error. Yeah. But don't drink anything that doesn't come from a bottle, even if it's a bottle you recognize, unless you see that bottle opened. Who knows what the heck is in there, honestly. Because, I mean, you can take a bottle of whatever and pour antifreeze in it and pass it off as alcohol.
Sure.
So just be super careful about that kind of stuff. Make sure it's a bottle or a can that you recognize. Don't eat anything that you're not watching. Be prepared, I think. I think there was a couple of things there was a buffet at the resort, like there's at every resort. And who knows how long some of that stuff was sitting out. And who knows what kind of quality control there is. I think maybe avoid the buffets and make sure you're watching your food, be prepared.
That's tough though. You go to an all-inclusive resort. That's one of the big selling points for me is the nonstop food on the buffet and the never ending drinks at the bar.
Yeah. Well,
is this your first experience at a resort like that?
It is, yeah. Never been to all inclusive. Probably won't go back.
I've only been once,
it was.
I mean, I had the complete opposite experience, but
Yeah, well, we had the idea to go from my sister and my brother-in-law who went to an all-inclusive resort in Cancun, had an absolute blast. They went again, had an absolute blast. And so, I mean, a lot of people go, they love it. Some people go every year. But you hear about all these stories about how people get sick and end up in the hospital, cost them a ton of money. You don't think it's going to happen to you. Well, it can happen to you.
Well, that is a bummer, man.
Yeah.
I was sitting at work wondering when you were going to send me fish pictures, and I never got any. And then the news just got worse from there. I saw your updates on Facebook, and that's when I got a hold of you. I was like, dude, what happened?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. I'm just very fortunate and blessed that we did make it back. It took a lot of prayer from friends and family, I think, but we did make it back. We're safe and sound. Everybody's healthy. No lingering issues, at least at this point. Who knows what's going to pop up in the next couple of days, but so far I feel fine.
Yeah, I feel like you should be in the clear now. It had to have been just some type of food poisoning or, bacteria or something. I have no idea, but I'm glad you made it back, and that way we can go fishing sometime here in the near future.
Yeah, if we can get to a temperature maybe above like 20 degrees, I'm game.
Yeah. I think I decided that's my limit. I don't fish. Maybe I'd go ice fishing's different, but I'm not fishing in a river or out on open water unless it's above 20 degrees. That's my cutoff.
And like you can dress for it, you can deal with it, but the problem is if it's anything below 20, your guides are freezing so fast, especially with fly rod. Your guides are freezing so fast it just becomes impossible to fish.
Yeah.
And it becomes just no fun. Like you just spend the whole day breaking ice out of your guides.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, Matt, I appreciate you hopping on to tell us your unfortunate story. And, if anything, hopefully others listening to this can learn from it, take some advice, make sure they have some good insurance and understand what their insurance will cover. I will definitely be looking into that before my trip. So, and I hope,
definitely.
If anything, your misfortune could help somebody else someday.
Yeah, I hope so. I definitely hope so.
Not that that's a silver lining at all.
No, I mean, if I can keep somebody else or a couple people out of having a similar situation, then so be it.
Yep. Well, cool, man. I appreciate you jumping on the phone with me.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's kind of fun to rehash at this point.
All right. I could say, hey, yeah, hey, I am so down today, yeah, so down today, Lord, I feel this way, feel like I might fade away, can't hear what you say, can't hear what you say. I'm so down today. I'm wish I could stay. Hey, yeah, hey. Looking out the window of my hotel room, it's been so long. I drift a little farther every day. Don't let me fade away. Hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, yeah. Gotta get back